So Luke, what are we going to learn today?
How to guarantee yourself the ability to make more money.
I like that. Let's write this down.
I think it's where we need to start. You know, many times people say, hey, fix different problems in your life. But if you don't fix your financial problems, you don't have to be a multimillionaire. But if you don't fix your financial problems, you don't have the mind space in order to work on other areas of your life. The reason you struggle with your finances and that affects your marriage is because you're focused on the finances. You don't have enough time to focus on your relationship. The issue isn't the relationship. You have to be able to understand that in the game of life, money is important. Not this idea of absorbent wealth, but enough for you to be able to have mental real estate and freedom to then work on other areas of your life. So we talk about business, but business isn't the only way to make money. That's what most people don't understand. And business doesn't mean you have to go and hire employees and have huge staff or have an office. Business is just the ability to transact from one person to the other or from one business to the other. So the question is, am I able to transact? The answer to that is yes. Everybody can transact, and you don't have to do it necessarily in person. So this idea of selling, how people naturally talk about you have to be good at sales, you can throw that out the window. We're not even going to talk about that because we live in a digital era as well. So I call it the trifecta of money. Your ability to guarantee money coming in perpetuity. The first one is understanding that anything that you do needs to be in high demand. Any type of endeavor that you take on needs to be in high demand. If you want to, for example, have a gardening business, it would be very foolish for you to have it in Manhattan because the demand for it is not going to be the same as if you have outdoor, let's say Tennessee or here in the outskirts of London where there's a lot of demand. Mm-hmm. So whatever you touch needs to be in high demand. I see people being like, hey, I want to start an application. I want to start the next Uber. I want to have these illusions of wealth, but they're actually traps because they're not in high demand or they are not in the second place, which is super important. You have high demand. And then up north, which is going to be my main priority, is you need to be the best. And that's where most people get caught up. Your ability to do something with the best of your abilities will determine whether you're going to be hired or not. Why? Because there's going to be competition. Where there's demand, there's competition. And you don't want to be hired for being the cheapest. You want to be hired for being the best. So most people come into a business and they don't work on their skills. They don't polish the business model. They don't enhance the business model. They don't think about what are the verticals that allow me to do this in a better way. So for example, back to very essential basic businesses, plumbing, electrician, homeschool teacher, all these things. How can you do it better than your competition? High demand, your skill set, and then finally, it needs to be, we'll call it irreplaceable. Irreplaceable. You need to be irreplaceable. We are entering an era right now where AI and social media and automation is going to start quickly taking jobs. So why would I go into copywriting when any business in the next 12 months could replace me?
I say that about people becoming doctors, robotics and AI working together.
So you need to also, this one's an alarming one because you need to be irreplaceable in what you do. So when we're starting communities, we understand the irreplaceable factor of in-person relationships. Mm-hmm. AI can't replace that. So you need to be able to build on a solid foundation. You need to be in demand. You need to be irreplaceable. And then you need to be the best at what you do. If you can do these three things, you assure yourself the ability to make money. And I don't want to give a specific business model because it applies to anything that you do. It can even apply to your job. So why would you get a job at McDonald's that anybody can do when there's no skill attached to it? You'll get paid in proportion to the difficulty of the problems that you solve. So if you solve better problems, you'll get paid in proportion to that. So you don't necessarily need to go out of your way and start a business. You just need to get a job that is in high demand, that not a lot of people can do, be the best at it, and make sure that you can't be replaced. We saw this during the whole metaverse kind of experience where Facebook rebranded to Meta. They were hiring engineers and paying them 50% on top of whatever it is that they were usually getting because they were irreplaceable. Mm-hmm. And Google would come and be like, hey, we'll hire you for an extra 30%. And because they're irreplaceable pieces, they secured their ability to transact. Because all you're doing as an employee is you're selling your services to a business. Whether you believe it or not, you're kind of an entrepreneur. You've just labeled it differently with the W-2 or whatever it is that you have in the paperwork, depending on your country. But if you're the best at what you do, which this is fully in your control, select something that's in high demand by observing the marketplace. And then finally, be irreplaceable in any endeavor, and you can secure yourself the ability to make money in perpetuity.
So people are listening to this. So I actually totally understand this, but I'm thinking for people that won't, they might be asking themselves, well, what's not going to be replaceable? Maybe we could get into that today.
Let's do it.
What's high demand actually mean? Because you can create demand.
Yes.
I mean, Prime, for example, that drink wasn't in demand until they made it in demand. They partly did it through scarcity. Right, so that we can teach people a little bit about how to become high demand, what high demand means. And then the best for me is a really interesting thing, because sometimes like the iPhone's not the best product, but actually Samsung Android is a better product, but people still want the iPhone. So it's interesting because if you can get the high demand, you can almost outflank some of these things.
Yes, but this is also considering that best doesn't necessarily mean tech.
True.
Best can also have to do with convenience.
Yep.
People buy the iPhone because of the iMessage.
Yeah, and they also buy because it's a package.
Yes, it's the experience of the entire thing.
The other side of it, for people that might be listening that presently are working in McDonald's, here's the irony. I've hired people who were a brilliant waiter in a restaurant. If they're the best in the restaurant, they're looking after customers, they're really attentive, they're polite, they're charming, whatever it is, they're using all their skills, they're being the best at it. I'm like, wow, I would like that person to come and work with me. So you might be the best in McDonald's, and that will give you opportunity, right? So being the best in general, wherever you are,
yes.
whatever you're doing, even if you're in that shit job, will give you opportunities.
Yes.
So people need to learn to be the best. So can we break down these things, do you think?
Yes. I mean, there's a couple things. For example, high demand. So there's two things with high demand, right? You look at trends, and then you look at narratives. So with trends, it's these small explosions, right? You look at a fidget spinner. You know, that's a high demand trend.
You can bring it back just by mentioning it, right?
Exactly.
Fidget spinner link down below, affiliate link.
So you have these trends, right? You have these small little bursts. We see them in social media. Now more than ever, these trends last 2, 5, maybe 15 days. People, for example, Donald Trump got shot. People started drop shipping the shirt of him pumping the fist. It lasted maybe 3 days, but I saw a couple guys making $100,000 in 48 hours because it was a trend that was in high demand. So if you want to focus on this is like fast money, a pair of sneakers that Travis Scott releases that are private. That's a trend. You don't know if he's going to be around in 10 years. You do a quick flip, sell it for a couple hundred.
Good skill
bucks.
practice.
It's a great practice. But you find something that's in high demand based off of trends. What I like to do is narratives. Long-term plays. So what is a narrative? A narrative for me is AI is going to replace digital experiences. Therefore, people are going to crave physical experiences. So that to me is a long-term narrative that makes me operate differently. Initially, when you're trying to hustle and make your first money, you want to be on the trends. You want to the next thing till you build up your cash flow. Eventually, you want to get into your narratives, your long-term plays. When people are like, you know what, back in the day, digital taxis and the ability to just order a taxi through an application, that's a long-term thought. If you get into that, you're expending time, energy, resources, and narratives, believe it or not, are also riskier because it's you trying to predict the future. With the trends, you're acting upon the present moment. Mm-hmm. So this is usually how I think about demand. Mm-hmm. Now, you can create it artificially. If you're on the marketing side, you can create trends and you can create narratives. We can go into distribution. We can go into hiring key opinion leaders. We can go into influencing social media. We can go into distributing your clips. There's many ways to fabricate demand. And then the second one is the narratives are a little bit more difficult because narratives tend to take longer time to play out. They're longer transitions. So these, in the trading world, you would consider trends kind of like your day trading plays, and your narratives are kind of like your long-term plays. Like you buy NVIDIA, understanding that the chips in processing is going to be something valuable in the future, and 20 years later it skyrockets. So that's a long-term narrative. The trend is look at all the other AI stocks that are now pumping because of NVIDIA. Do they deserve to pump? No, but it's part of the trend. Same thing with crypto, right? Does it operate on narrative? Bitcoin may operate on the narrative of, hey, it's fair money, it's open ledger. But inside of crypto, you have trends like meme coins. Are meme coins and Bitcoin correlated? No, but it's a trend that now happens because of the macro narrative. So if you understand narratives and you understand trends, you can assure yourself to make money, because where attention goes, money flows. We know that. So you have to go where the demand is. So that's breaking down demand. Now, when it comes to being the best, how I categorize the best is you have your what will you call your variables, and then your fixed best. Your variables are going to be depending on the specific job. So actual like hard skill type things. Are you the fastest? Are you the most resilient? Things of this nature. Do you know the skill set in the profession well? And then you have your fixed, which is something that every person should develop. Do you show up on time? Do you show up with a good attitude? Are you trustworthy? Are you reliable? These are your fixed variables that nothing can basically waver regardless of your job. These are the essentials, which is your character, your attitude, the intrinsic things of how people perceive you. And then you have your variable kind of attributes, which is in accordance to the job. So mentioning them, let's say I mentioned e-commerce. Well, I need to be the best in understanding supply chain. I need to be the best in understanding cash flow management. I need to be the best in running Facebook ads. I need to be the best in product research. Do I have to do that later on? No, you can eventually hire people to do it. But the reason you want to know it is because you want to know every aspect of your business. And the business basically grows alongside you. So the better you become, believe it or not, the better the business will be, because the business only reflects you.
There's a hack around this as well, which I've discovered is, let's say I'm personally not very good at accounts, that side of business. I'm good at marketing, not good at accounts. So if I want the best and I want to be the best, I do co-founder businesses. So when I start a business, I get that person in as a co-founder. It doesn't have to cost me any money to bring them in. So people listening don't have any money. You get a co-founder, but you get that best in-house from day one. So you don't have to go and learn accounts if that's something you're not good at, right? Yes. But you need A players in your business. That's I agree. This is partly it too, right?
And you don't need many people. That's what most people don't understand. You can do a lot more damage with 300 Spartans, right? Yeah. So what you need to do is find those individuals that cover the bases that are essential for a business to succeed that you can't cover. And if you fall under the delusion that you can cover everything, then that's a fallacy. Maybe in the next couple of years when AI can become the best co-pilot partner, and you don't have to shell out equity or sweat equity to anybody, that future may come. We'll see billion-dollar unicorns by a single.
But it's going to be more competitive at that point too.
Exactly.
So,
but right now we live in a situation where, once again, you have your variables. If you can't build them out, make sure you find somebody that can cover those bases. But then you have your fixed variables, which is the things that are undisputed, that people intrinsically value and consider you the best at or not. It can be like leadership. Are you a good leader? Like, are you somebody that's accountable? These are skills that matter more than the other, because you can train the other things. These things come from inside. And then irreplaceable. It comes back down to trends and narratives. You need to look at, is e-commerce, me selling on Amazon, the most ideal thing? Yes or no? Why? Should I be selling on Shopify? What's my thesis? And different people do business differently because they have different understandings of trends and narratives. So just make sure that you're irreplaceable. Pick something, do something that gives you longevity. You don't want to be restarting a new business every 2 years. You want to take your time and build something that's going to be on a solid foundation, irreplaceable, undisputable, and that you're not going to have to be competing with robots that are going to be really cheap, cost efficient, and working 24/7. You need to understand that you got to be playing the future game because the world is accelerating. There's something called Moore's Law. And Moore's Law dictates, right? We kind of have like the exponential growth curve. It's about technology, right? And Moore's Law dictates that technology every 2 years gets twice as powerful at half the cost. And it only gets more exponential. So you start with the telegram. Oh, well, how expensive is it to transfer a message? Well, we got to set up poles all throughout the Midwest. And okay, well, what's next? It's the radio. Well, what's next? Is the TV. Well, what's next? Is the cell phone. Well, what's next? Fucking implants in your head, telepathic communication, like exponential curve. So you need to make sure that whatever you're tapping into, you're understanding that this exponential curve is growing, whether you like it or not. And that's what I tell people is the rules of the game are the rules of the game. You're on the board. The rules are set. If you understand how to play it, you're going to play it. The world doesn't work based off of what you want. The world just is, and you have to play the game.
The irreplaceable bit, I think, is the hardest thing for people to grasp. I'd like to go deeper on the other two subjects, but irreplaceable, like, I don't think I'm irreplaceable. Okay, so as an individual, I've got a social media presence, but who am I I'm easily replaced. It's an interesting problem. I think, maybe using myself as an example, okay, I've got 8 million followers online, so I built up an economic moat of sort. Brands will want to use my service, but I'm not irreplaceable. There's other people out there that can help, for example, promote a brand. But I think where you become irreplaceable, maybe you can define it better than this, but like, if you're the best at something, and people, so for example, people like working with you and you're good at it, they won't want to replace you.
A reputation.
Yeah. Right. I think that's something that people wonder when they're listening. They might be listening, how do I make myself irreplaceable? I actually think that reputation in particular is totally underrated as a tool to become irreplaceable.
I agree.
Like, there's plenty of people out there that could learn from many other people, but if you become good at the best at something, I think this best thing is the key to it all. Because I also think the best thing, it links to what school doesn't teach you. And I know we're both anti the school system. I really think the school system's let a lot of people down.
Yes.
Because what the school system says is, you're not good at these things, practice them more.
Yes.
But the one thing you are good at, it's okay, well, you're okay at that, so don't worry about it.
Don't worry
you should
about
double down on the thing that you're good at.
Yes.
And get even better, become the best at it.
Yes.
So back to your point here, like, a lot of people are not making themselves irreplaceable because they're not doubling down on what they're actually good at. They're being told what they're not good at and wasting too much time on that stuff. Do you think?
I agree fully. And then you add to that the fear of failure.
Right.
So we need to define risk and we need to define reward, because what people don't seem to understand if they're trying to make money is that these things are something that you have to input and do before the money comes. Money is a lagging indicator of your ability to master these three areas. And money will come. You don't plant a seed and just wait for it and it's going to grow the next day. If you have the paycheck mindset, you're not going to be able to be the best at what you do.
You get addicted to being average. I just really want for people to remember that reputation. Because, a lot of people are going for the fast money. And maybe in trends, they do things that will hurt their reputation.
I agree.
Which eventually will mean that they are replaced, not irreplaceable. People can't work with you because you're not thinking long term.
Yes.